get the chance. Better men than you've been let this dance. To go, leave me, run like you've never run before. I have seen the worst, and there is nothing left for me to hate, so I can lay me down, my brothers, on the ground. I bled today until Coyote comes to raise me up and carries me.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Rugby Podcast. How are we all doing tonight? I'm Craig Manson. I'm your host tonight. Well, it's been a beautiful couple of days and it's been quite relaxed and people seem to be thinking it's summertime already and we've got sevens underway at all our rugby clubs. It's quite cool. And joining me tonight are the absolute antithesis of sevens rugby on the during the summertime. The two gentlemen like myself who enjoy sitting with a beer watching sevens more than they do taking part in sevens. Mark Riley and Allan McDonald. How you doing, boys?
I'm very well today, thank you.
I'm recovering, thank you, Craig.
Yes, first of all, a wee apology to all of you. We weren't meant to be here last week, but due to holidays, hugely busy work issues, and someone tried to turn himself inside out due to well, you would think that someone who's a doctor would actually either have built up a tolerance to something or had an ability of not catching shit. But I've sworn there already in the first little bit there, Mark. So you better mark that down. So Allan wasn't too well. So are you feeling a bit better, Allan?
I am, thank you.
Did you get a Donald Trump style fix for it? You know, did you get to
bleep injection or something?
I'm just really disappointed you've not come on and ripped your mask off and stood in defiance while staring at an eclipse, a solar eclipse or something, and pointing at it. I don't know.
Well, to be fair, I am unlikely to need a mask to speak on the pod. We can have a chat about yeah. We can have a wee chat about off air about how things are transmitted, but it turns out you can't catch anything off online. So,
right, okay, right. So we're okay. So I can put my hazmat suit away, and I don't need it.
Well, that's a bit of a relief because I'm fine with you guys, but there's definitely a couple of guys in this pod that I'd be slightly concerned about.
Well, it's been an interesting couple of weeks. We've had underperformance, we've had disappointing performances, and we've had, where did that come from, performances. We also had a try that I can't say any more other than Molly Pullman, it's been quite a couple of weeks. So we're here, and we're hopefully going to be here a little bit longer. We'll have a chat with everybody. We're going to spend this particular episode is going to be free to air for everyone, because we haven't got any previews to worry about this weekend, because both Glasgow and Edinburgh are out of the European Cup, and also there's a bye week, or not a bye week, but there's a whatever they call it. They like to call it a lay week or a week off for the Six Nations for the women. So we'll talk about the last 2 weeks, and what's happened, and see where we are. We are the Scottish Rugby Podcast. We are brought to you by the Scottish Rugby Blog. We are part of the Sports Social Network. Please do give us a follow if you like our podcast. Please follow us on your favourite podcast app. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Why haven't you hit the subscribe button? You should have hit that subscribe button far quicker than now. And don't forget to give us a follow on social media. We are mainly Blue Sky now, if I remember correctly. The old Elon Musk hate machine has been abandoned by most of us now. We are also have a super secret Facebook page, which is part of our Patreon side of things. If you do like what we do, or you like what you listen to tonight, and you want to support what we do, you can go to now. There's a link on www.scottishrugbyblog.co.uk, and also on I think it's patreon.com/Scottish Rugby Podcast, I think. And that will allow you to hear usually the second part of our fabulous podcast. But also it gives you an ability to listen to and interact with our Hands in the Ruck section, and also our new 50-22 section as well. You'll hear about that later on tonight, because we are going to do this free to air for the whole session. But and then, as I say, if you like what you hear and you want to support us, please do go to Patreon. I think it's still £3 a month plus the VAT, and it's the price of a really, 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 really poor kebab on a drunk night out. One with no salad, or don't even.
Is that a poor kebab? Is that a poor kebab? I think that's a good kebab. More room for meat and sauce.
Hey, salads don't win scrums, isn't that the answer?
That's very true. Well, the only salad I know is the old prop salad, which is chips, and prop salad and fridge cigarettes. That's all I'm interested in. Chips and Diet Coke. Anyway, we'll quickly move on. Well, the news this week, there's quite a bit of news over the last 2 weeks, and I think we better just start off with is it the more surprising set of news articles that Edinburgh are basically splurging and throwing their money, or throwing daddy's money around, and Glasgow aren't really yet. I don't know if it's surprising or not, is it, guys? But Edinburgh, first of all, a couple of new coaches, both coming from the Southern Hemisphere. David Nusafora has gone through his Rolodex, and he's picked out a couple of boys that were either going to be getting fired or were close to it, and they wanted to have a go at steering a down in the mouth Edinburgh to wins. But let's concentrate on the players that have been signed. Mosesi Tuipulotu, 2-year extension. Grant Gilchrist, a year extension. Pro deals for Jack Brown. Pro deals for Ollie and Jerry Blythe Lafferty. And then we've had some interesting signings. Riley Higgins, I think, is going to be the talk of the town, coming from the centre that's come from the Hurricanes. He's in for 3 years. Hector Patterson got his pro deal, and we'll talk about him in a second. Louis Chapman from Crusaders, a scrum half. Both him and I believe Riley Higgins are both Scottish qualified, if I'm right in saying, guys. And I think probably the one that we all knew was coming, but Alec Hepburn has been signed from Scarlets, loose head prop, Scotland player, captain 2024, and has played for England, and also played for the Racists down in, I'm not allowed to say that, out with let me just take that back.
The racially insensitive.
Yes, the racially insensitive Exeter Chiefs.
I'm not bleeping that, by the way.
Sorry?
I'm not bleeping that.
Okay, no worries. What are they going to do? Guys, Edinburgh really getting the checkbook out. I think they'll have not been, especially Riley Higgins, I don't think has been cheap. What's your thoughts, Mark?
Firstly, and I think most significantly and importantly, is that Riley is not a first name, and he should be ashamed. Riley, in any of its forms, is not a first name. It was started because of Buffy the Vampire Slayer's boyfriend, and it needs to stop now. However, Rob, as I'm going to call him, Higgins,
Hurricane.
Hurricane Higgins.
He came from Hurricanes as well. Oh, I just realised that now.
I've only just told that myself.
There's a whole lot of people listening to this going, "What's he talking about?" Because they don't remember Hurricane Higgins.
Hurricane Higgins, that's one for the kids, right?
Yeah.
He looks the part, right? He looks a very, very good unit. If Edinburgh maybe adopt a playing style where our centres get more ball, he'll be more useful. But potentially a good bit of business. I'm interested that both him and Jordy Gwynn, coming up from Trailfinders, have been given 3-year contracts, and I wonder if that's the sweetener to attract people into an underperforming Edinburgh, giving them slightly longer contracts than you might otherwise expect.
Yeah, I think you've also got a 2-year extension for Mosesi Tuipulotu as well, who I think that I'm not so sure about Tuipulotu, but especially for Higgins and especially for example Louis Chapman as well, etc. These are people that have got a Scotland cap dangling in front of them, so they'll need 3 years to come up, prove their worth, and then get introduced into the Scotland sort of setup as such, I guess. But Sean Everett's been kept on, Alan, to bring through the youth of Edinburgh. So he definitely is doing that now with pro deals for Jack Brown, Ollie and Jerry Blythe Lafferty. Obviously, well, I don't know. How old is Jordy Gwynn? He's not a youth, is he?
I don't know. I
thought he played for under-20s, did he not, or something like that?
He did, yeah. He's been Scotland under-20s. I think he's still comparatively young.
Yeah. So your thoughts on that, Alan?
He's 22. Sorry, Craig. I just looked up when you were speaking and got so excited that I knew something. So I just lost it out.
He's 22. So we've got the youth coming through, Alan.
Yeah, and look, if that is Everett's deal, and some of the players are starting to look reasonable. I'm very excited to see how Riley Higgins looks at 12, watching Ross Thompson kick past to the wing over his head. So I think.
Listen, we never used to, the kick pass was never a thing for Edinburgh. So when Ross Thompson did it, everyone went, ooh.
Well,
so,
to be fair, that's because for the last 2 years the ball hasn't even been getting to 10.
Sorry, Alan, I cut you off.
No, look. I think Edinburgh have shown something in the last couple of games. They have actually been a bit better, and they've toughed out some close wins. One against Zebra, but also the other against the Stormers, both at home. But not Stormers, sorry, the Sharks. One of the South African teams. And I think maybe look, they say you aren't going to get rid of Sean Everett at the moment, so I suppose we just need to get on the bus with him and see what happens. I'll be delighted if he turns out to turn into a beautiful swan from the ugly duckling of a coach he currently appears to be. I remain dubious as to whether or not that'll happen. But
well, the thing is that, and for those that have watched The Simpsons, we're getting on the bus that's driven by Otto. It's driven over a cliff in a fiery bus at the moment. But no, again, and we'll maybe talk about the Edinburgh games, the two games that they've had in a minute or so. But this is what Edinburgh did last year. We all kind of turned around and went, "Oh, he's actually doing something with them. They're actually doing quite well. Where's all these performances been during the season? Blah 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 blah." And the funny thing about it is that this time of year is when all the signings are made, all the re-signings are made, and all the moves to other different places are made. So, not that I'm ever being cynical at all. I would never think I was. None of you would think I'm cynical, would you?
Lord, no.
Oh God, no, never at all. Anyway, so yeah, interesting signings. I think I'm excited about everyone. The only person I'm not that excited about is Alec Hepburn, to be honest with you, but because he's going to be John Anderson's going to get the chance to say, the old Englishman that comes up to play for Scotland and for Edinburgh. Yeah, it's an interesting one, but we'll move on.
I'm going to slag off Alec Hepburn really quickly because every time I've slagged the prop off on the pod, they have played very well. So Alec Hepburn's going to be terrible. Thank you, Edinburgh. Edinburgh fans can thank me later for that.
Yeah, very well. Absolutely. Glasgow, on the other side of things, don't seem to be getting much from Mummy and Daddy's bank purse or bank account. Finn Richardson has been renewed. Angus Fraser renewal, 2 years. Now, I've got here Bailey Quenzel. Now, I've just thought of Fuzzywick. Just something for some reason goes through my head about Fuzzywick. But it's Bailey Quenzel from Western Force. David Nusifora, have you been talking to people in Australia again? And Kerr Johnson is getting his pro deal as well with Glasgow. So there's, I forgot, apparently tomorrow, not that we record this on a Thursday evening that I don't talk about, there is a 10 signing coming for Edinburgh as well, which and everyone kind of thinks it's going to be the lad Grayson, who's the other lad Grayson's son from England, but we'll wait and see what happens with that. But yeah, again, I've kind of overshadowed Glasgow for Edinburgh there for a second, so I do apologise.
To be fair, Edinburgh have been overshadowing Glasgow the last couple of weeks, so it's fair.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute.
Continued in every vein, doesn't it? It's
but Glasgow, very, very quiet, Mark. Very
quiet. I should have put more effort into looking up who was actually contract ending at the end of this season, but the fact that we're not seeing a load of renewals is as concerning as we're not seeing a load of signings, to me anyway. Glasgow need a 10 as badly, if not more badly, than Edinburgh need a 10. But saying that, I'm not sure that James Grayson, son of Paul Grayson, is the answer to either of those teams' problems. I mean, James Grayson. The rumor is that James Grayson is going to be the signing at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, or the announcement at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. He's been in Japan since 2023 and had 47 matches, and he's not Scottish qualified. I'm not seeing any logic in signing him at all.
Was it Sale Sharks or was it Newcastle Falcons he was with before?
There's Northampton.
Oh, Northampton. Well, there you go.
Yeah. Oh, he got a fair bit of game time, but mostly off the bench and in cup games for Northampton, as I understand it. But I mean, I could be wrong. He might be the next best thing, but he strikes me as potentially another. Let's hope he fulfills potential, just like Ross Thompson.
Well, he's definitely come to Edinburgh because Rugby Pass have reported that he's going to a Premiership side in England. So
it must be Edinburgh.
It must be Edinburgh. And Allan, Glasgow, it's all quite quiet for Glasgow. What's your thoughts to that?
I think there's maybe some logic to it. I think Edinburgh's squad is less complete than Glasgow's squad. So you can pick up players that will improve the squad more easily. Glasgow, I think, are going to have to really negotiate and manoeuvre to get players that will improve their squad. And as Latman 460 said, they really just need an 8 to fly half in a centre. Now, Bailey Quenzel can apparently play 2 of those positions. But I suspect more centre and wing than anything else. But I do wonder if there's going to be something more from Glasgow. They've announced Roevald van der Merwe, haven't they? Or is that just
yes, yeah.
That was a while back, but you're absolutely correct. Yeah.
So maybe it's just a case of delicate negotiations to get the 10 that they need. You would hope something would hear something fairly soon, but it's probably a more competitive marketplace that Glasgow are in to get the players that they need to improve their squad, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
definitely. Right, we'll move on. We'll start talking about some games, and we may as well start with the Women's Six Nations. A phenomenal crowd because we're 2 weeks down and we didn't pod last week. Phenomenal crowd, over 30,000 people at Murrayfield to watch the Red Roses toy with Scotland like a what do they call it, a killer whale and a seal, throwing it around and kicking it and playing with it until it finally stop, they're already dead. Edinburgh. See that? I'm getting far too away with Edinburgh. I'm getting all excited about Edinburgh again. England 84, Scotland 7. I really, considering the what's the word? Considering the performance that they gave against England in the World Cup, we expected a little bit better than the 84 7 score at Murrayfield. And then last weekend, Italy against it away to Italy, Italy 41, Scotland 14. So last 2 weeks not been too great for Scotland women. Mark, where I wasn't shocked with the Red Roses score, but I was shocked with the Italy score.
I was kind of shocked by both of them, if I'm honest. Don't get me wrong, I fully expected the Red Roses to win. We've had this conversation before on the pod, and we've certainly had it on our group chats as well, that you can't throw out people who are semi-professional players against a bunch of people who are fully professional for several years and expect them to win. But that scoreline was really, really tough. And if I'm honest, we looked far worse than we did in the World Cup against them. I thought we looked dispirited, disjointed. Our defence was not up to scratch. It's It sounds absolutely awful, but I'd have been okay with a 50-odd point win. A 50-odd point loss, rather, to England. But 84-7 is, that's tough to take, and it was worse than I thought it would be by some degree.
Yeah, and Alan, we're looking at a squad that's been rejuvenated with a lot of debutants, stroke low cappers, a new coaching staff coming in to try some new things. Were they just, especially against the Red Roses, were they just, we all kind of expected them to, or did we forget that this is, a low cap squad, a lot of new faces, new coaching staff, etc. Did we expect to be going out and making it a close squeak through for England?
I think we wanted to see progress and we expected to see progress, but I think you're right. There is a lack of awareness of the relative inexperience of this team. With players like Rhianna Darragh making her Scotland debut off the bench in the match, so there was an awful lot. And Rhianna's, she obviously played at Highlands. She's into her second year with Glasgow Warriors, so it's not like she's been playing high-level rugby for a long time. Cracking player, and she'll do very well, but she isn't experienced in top-level rugby yet. I'm sure that will come, and I think that's probably a bit of a symptom from the squad. Add to that new coaches and new ideas and perhaps new defensive systems, etc. Quite a lot of missed tackles. So, and then coming up against one of, if not the best team in the world, and certainly one of the two candidates for it in the arguments that people would have about that. With that leads to a tough day at the office, doesn't it?
Yeah, and Alan, I think we're talking about missed tackles. We're talking about obviously a Red Roses team that none of players, if I'm correct, have second jobs. Pardon me, a little bit of windy pops from the fizz cigarette. But for me, the Italy game, we lack, especially, so we're talking about tackles, dropping off tackles, missing tackles, but we look like we're, where we've gained in accuracy with passing, Alan, where we've gained with kicking game, etc., and attack, we've lost with physicality.
It looked very much like we had sent light cavalry out against heavy cavalry up front, and that's been it's been a Scottish problem for as long as I can remember. I know Frank Haddon tried to correct, but that just led to really mediocre medium cavalry getting pummeled because they're neither one thing or another. So, in fact, it's been a problem for Scottish teams as far back as Bannockburn. So we're talking about centuries of problem.
Sorry, how do you think the English got on it, Barry? Well, I saw a lack of physicality from the Scots.
Well, the English had heavy cavalry, and the Scots really only light cavalry then. So it's an analogy that actually stands up surprisingly.
Oh, it worked. Don't get me wrong. I was just quite enjoying.
I believe our backs in the Shiltrons did okay though.
Well, you see, that's you adapt to what you have and play a different game. Yeah. The problem was that Italy were heavier. They looked technically better in the scrum, and they were as fast, if not, well, they were at least as fast, if not faster, to the breakdown, and they were hitting it harder. And Scotland just could not retain their own ball. And if you're losing your ball a lot at the breakdown, and you're not really getting go forward, and with the lack of, with Jake Gonkel's encouraged retirement, shall we say, and the loss of Evie Gallagher, we quite notably didn't have someone that could punch a hole in the Italian defence and get front football, and that was a problem.
And also, Mark, losing Rachel Malcolm just at the beginning, just before the game, losing your talisman, maybe this is the problem with the team being so close, in that you lose someone who's as powerful a person as Rachel Malcolm, at captain. The squad definitely seemed to take a backward step.
Yeah, I completely agree. One of the things I jotted down when I watched the match was that I felt that her leadership had been missed badly, particularly in the second half. I mean, there was one stretch in the game where I felt that we almost didn't seem to be pushing hard enough, considering we were losing by this stage. There were box kicks going up, and we're not chasing them hard. We're not getting back into the line hard. And I do wonder if that's something that the different leadership, Rachel particularly, might have done something to rectify, just by saying, come on, get on with it, get up there, run, push,
Yeah.
Well, this is why it's a bit of a perfect storm, isn't it? Because you have, you've already got a team that has a lot of new faces or newer faces or people in lower numbers of caps, and then you lose the most experienced, one of the most experienced player in the team, if not, certainly one of, who is also the captain.
Certainly the most influential.
Yeah. I think EVG as well, and also I think Emma Orr. I think they're quite influential players on the park, and having those guys missing,
it's worth saying as well. I mean, Lana Skeldon took over the captaincy, and Lana is a phenomenal player and has been a phenomenal player for years for Scotland. We also still had Emma Wassell on the pitch and people like that. So we had experienced players on there, and I have heard people saying, but aren't they stepping up? But being an experienced player is not the same as being a leader and being a natural leader. And we shouldn't take anything away from any of them for that. Lana's phenomenally experienced, both for Scotland and in the PWR and all that sort of thing. But that doesn't make her a vocal leader on the pitch. And I don't mean that in any way as any denigration towards her. Some people are just not like that,
Yeah, absolutely.
Sean Maitland was an experienced player. But you never felt Sean was you never felt he was a leader for the Scotland side.
Absolutely.
And it's what they didn't have. If the men's team lose Sione Tuipulotu, you've got Finn, you've got Rory Darge, you've got Kyle Stain, Xander. They can all step up. Schumann will run through walls. Grant Gilchrist is experience of captaining. I think that's what they were lacking. They were lacking experience, but they were also lacking influence, because the experienced players that they have are very, very good players, but aren't ones, as you say, Mark, that just have that kind of standard bearer kind of personality.
Yeah, definitely. To wind up on the Six Nations currently, I think really everyone needs to just take a breath, and if you want to be upset about something, be upset next Six Nations if Sione Fukufuka hasn't shown progress with the team. I think it's difficult to turn around and say they're terrible. They're a disgrace. Blah 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 blah. When they've got a brand new coach, brand new coaching staff, and they've got a lot of new players coming in for, let's just. I would probably describe it as one of the biggest games in Scotland women's career, of having over 30,000 people at Murrayfield. You just need to watch. Was it Emma Wassell walking in front of the bus, and see the see the emotion.
Rona Lloyd.
It was Rona Lloyd. Yeah. It was Rona Lloyd. See the emotion of the coming out of her coming through, being welcomed into Murrayfield the way they were. So I think it's one of those things we just have to park it and move on and see where we are, especially when we've got WXV2 or WXV1. Are we in WXV1 this year? We've got the WXV coming up at some point.
Yeah, I've seen people criticising the players, and I was going to hold it for our hands in the ruck, but I'm not even going to give it that much credit. For me, I don't even feel like criticising the whole team that much. I think this is going to be a poor Six Nations for us. I think we're going to come away with 1 win because I don't think we're beating France at home, and I don't think we're beating Ireland in Ireland. But for me, it's new setup, new coaches, lots of new players. Let's all take a wee breath, and see where we are this time next year. If we're still in this position this time next year, then we might have bigger discussions to have.
Absolutely. So, why don't we stay in the negative and then maybe end on a positive? Glasgow 2 weeks ago.
How much did you enjoy that?
Well, come on. I tried not to, I'm trying to be level-headed and what's the word? I'm being balanced here. Glasgow 12, Lions 54, and then last weekend Stormers 48, Glasgow 12. Glasgow's so first of all, for all you Glasgow fans out there that like to have a good laugh at Edinburgh being slapped about when they went on their tour to South Africa, well, welcome to the South Africa. Was it welcome to the Thunderdome, as Tina Turner would say to Glasgow fans? It's not a why. First of all, why the South Africans are in the URC in the first place makes me wonder. But also. It's not a pleasant trip from what I can tell. It's lovely to get away from the wife and kids for a couple of weeks, but to get run over by some thundering South Africans, it's not, I don't think, is a very pleasant thing. But Glasgow really, Alan, Glasgow really suffering from injuries, suffering from players still having a hangover from Lions, suffering from players who are leaving, maybe not given the performances that we usually expect from them. Am I wrong?
I think you might be wrong in the last one. I think it was just the everything, wasn't it? It was the injuries, it's the fatigue, it's playing at altitude, and it just looked. They look very much like a team that were out of puff, metaphorically as well as literally. It's always going to be difficult. And Ben Afshar's a young player, and I don't want to throw any shade on him other than I would quite like to see him stop what I've termed cussetering, which is taking a step away from the ruck. I would quite like that to stop, because that always gave me hope that I might actually hit the scrum half coming around the side of the ruck.
Oh, yeah. You could, as a defence coach, you want the scrum half to start taking a couple of steps before he passes, because that gives you enough time to smash whoever he's passing it to. It's an old one.
As a former back rower, that was one of my favourite things.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I was as a front rower. I was never going to get to the person the scrum half was passing to. But I could get it. If he took a step, there was a chance I could get to the scrum half and catch him just as he was passing, and perhaps discourage him from carrying the ball again, shall we say.
Folding him in half in a pleasant way.
Yes.
Like a deck chair.
In a nice, friendly way.
Yes, absolutely. Well, listen, so I'm sorry, but when I was playing, at my ferocious times of playing rather than my old over 35s type playing, usually it was hitting them about there so that their head smashed off your shoulder, to be honest with you. So it was I could be, I'm sorry to say it, but we
For
use
those of
many
you listening in black and white, Craig is indicating his high chest area.
yes. My apologies. Let's just say that the day when I played at my youth, you did as much damage as you possibly could, and I'm not proud of it, but yes, I am. Anyway, Allan, Mark, I should say, Glasgow. Are we worried about Glasgow's semi-finals, playoffs, etc.? Do we think that we might not be seeing a URC title there this year?
A couple of points out of that South Africa tour, even if it was 2 losing bonuses, would have been fine, given the injury problems they have. Taking nothing away, particularly when the second game was against the then number 2 side in the table. I mean, to be honest, they need to take full points away from their next 2 games. Otherwise, they might even be risking a top 4 slot, let alone a top 2 slot. For people that might not know the intricacies of it, if they get the first slot, they will have home games all the way to the final. If they get the second slot, they will get home games all the way to the semi-final, and the final will be the final will be an away game only if the second slot gets to the final as well. So top 2 is imperative to Glasgow, knowing how well their home record has been. More on that later.
You've also got to think that they've got Cardiff and Ulster coming up. Cardiff at home and Ulster away, and we're not talking about two. We're not talking about 2 teams that are going to just lay down and say, "Please, on you go to a quarter final or a semi final."
Ulster, Stormers though also have Ulster and Cardiff, but both away. Obviously, the opposite weeks to Glasgow. So that seems true for the Stormers. Except both of them are away.
Yeah. And Leinster have their usual home run walk-in.
Yeah.
So they're coming after it as well, because Leinster will take 2. I can't even remember who Leinster are playing. I didn't pay any attention to it, because they're 2 home games and they're both against bankable opposition. So I expect Leinster to get 10 points. Glasgow are missing so many key players. And Glasgow's lack of depth at this stage of the season is really, really telling. When you think about George Horn, Gregor Brown, Scott Cummins, Jamie Dobie, those guys on their own. There are guys that ran out on both of these South Africa Tour games in the last 2 weeks that wouldn't even make the bench if Glasgow had their full team available. However, that's not excusing it. There were enough players that they should have been able to do something with it.
Yeah.
I felt watching the games, I wrote very similar. I went back and read about the things I jotted down when I watched the games, and I felt very similar to the notes I was taking about the Scotland women's game, that they seem to be lacking those personalities that were saying, get up, fold, get back in the line. For me, Glasgow's biggest issues, I mean, they didn't do so well at the breakdown, but their biggest issues for me was their work off the ball. Glasgow are usually phenomenal at getting into position and getting back in the defensive line and all that sort of thing, and they look tired. And I just wonder if they're all a wee bit shy yet.
Yeah, I think so. I think, and Allan, you're looking at a team that last year would have had Henko Venter, we'd have had Seb Cancelleri.
Yeah.
You know, have a few, and this is where these guys earn their money, is when there's injuries or there's Scotland players away, etc. And you've got to remember that probably the virtually the whole first team, if you'd call Glasgow have a first team, have been away playing Six Nations rugby, etc. Because we were at a stage where Edinburgh were hardly putting any members of the Scotland team of their team into the Scotland team. So there's a lot of, just as you say, Mark, you get tired,
Yeah.
I think that's it. They look tired. And there are young players, again, it's the Scotland women problem, young players with less influence filling the gaps. And that's not what you need in these situations. You need someone to hold you up by the scruff of the neck that is actually disappointing them is more scary than not running through the wall that's in front of you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's what they're lacking at the moment.
Yeah.
On that news, there was news a couple of weeks ago that both Gregor Brown and Scott Cummings were looking like they were nearing return. So hopefully this extra week off will get them to the point where they can play some part. Because that would be helpful.
And from what I'm reading, both George Hornet and Jamie Dobie as well. And those four guys alone will turn performances around on that level.
They will turn that frown upside down. They certainly will. And then talking about turning your frown upside down, Edinburgh 2 weeks ago, Edinburgh 31, Zebri 30. The hoodoo continues of Italian clubs. But the better game or the better result was last weekend, Edinburgh 33, Sharks 28. Edinburgh doing the usual thing, Mark, of, nothing to play for, so let's go out and play well.
Yes.
Hector Patterson scored in his debut against Zebri. It seems that they're, how could I put it? They just seem like they want to finish on a high. They want to. As I've said, I had a wee poke about it, saying that it was time for them to renew contracts and things like that. But your thoughts on it?
Yeah. The Zebra game, they literally beat Zebra by a point with a try on the 79th minute. Right?
Yeah.
Let's be quite clear about it. But it was a very high scoring game at that. It was what, 31-30?
31-30, yeah.
Yeah. I'm loving seeing some of the youngsters coming through. I do wonder about the chicken and egg situation that Everett wasn't playing any of the youngsters until that became the reason for his extension.
Yes.
But we'll leave that discussion for another day. I think Hector Patterson looks the part. One try against Zebra and two against Sharks in his first two professional games. Fair play to the lad. However, all that said, they still beat Zebra. And this Edinburgh side, going into the final couple of minutes of a game when they were 7 points down or 6 points down with a minute to play, this Edinburgh side would have lost that 6 months ago, never mind a year ago.
Yeah, well, this Edinburgh side would probably be in the lead 6 months ago or a year ago and then lose it.
And then lose it at that, yeah.
Yeah.
The Zebra game, the only thing I wrote in capital letters was discipline. Edinburgh's penalty count in the first half in defence was dreadful.
Yeah.
But they still managed to win.
But again, it's this whole thing with Edinburgh, and Allan, you might correct me, but Edinburgh always seem to be when they're under the pump. So if somebody starts firing back at them, that's when the penalties come. And it seems to be a panic penalty side of things.
Winning's a habit, but losing's an even harder habit. because you have to get past it. That's the best you can say about the Zebra game, is that they got past it, and that's not a small thing. Like you said, though, Craig, at the start, I do have a clear memory of saying something very similar last season about this stage when Edinburgh looked a bit better. Maybe there was green shoots of recovery. Maybe they were a bit better at the start. Maybe it's the fact that progress, heaven knows we know with Scotland, progress isn't a straight line. He's having to bring through, and teams take, they go back, they take one step forward and sometimes 3 steps back. But they toughed out a win against Zebra that we didn't think they were going to.
Aye.
I mean, that was very much my take on it. I think I said as much in the chat.
The only thing I will say, and I agree with you completely, Alan, about we've seen these green shoots before. They then won another one the following week.
So that's very interesting, and I think that's the and it, Brian Dalglish has sort of said on the chat against Sharks there was a complete change of fight and attitude. Yeah. Actually, at the start of the game, my wife and I have been watching. We're doing a box set binge of Keeping Faith because I'd never seen it, so we were watching that. I said to her, we'll put the Edinburgh game on, and then when I saw the first couple of scrums, I was like, it's all right. I can probably catch this later. I'll watch another 10 minutes, and but if the scrums keep going like this, Edinburgh are not going to go well. So, we'll just pop it on. I can watch it later for the pod. We don't need to take up our Friday night with it. And of course, we watched it to the very end because I was like, and they did it, Yeah. So, and the Zebra game was poor. Has there been a change in confidence come from it? Look, it was a close game and we toughed it out and won it. It's a reasonable argument. It's the argument I made after the Wales game with Scotland, isn't it? So,
yeah. Well, I think I posted on our group chat, where the hell has this team been all season?
Yeah.
The Sharks game was a good game, and Edinburgh played really well in places. They deserved the win. They fought for the win and they deserved it. Some of the tries were cracking.
Grant Gilchrist made a line break.
And
Grant Gilchrist made a line break.
Yes. Outrageous. Yeah. Have you been coaching him as well as Molly Pullman, Craig?
Well, I take absolute.
I know he's a Fife boy, isn't he? So
Grant Gilchrist? He's an Alloa boy.
He's Alloa.
No thanks. I just want everyone to know, and no matter what anyone says, no, I've coached a little bit of Molly Pullman, but I've not coached very much of her. That's all Molly Pullman. If anyone's going to get any type of, I was a very, very, very small part of Molly Pullman's journey, and she is just. I'm incredibly proud of her. She's amazing, and I'm incredibly proud of all the women I've coached in rugby. But anyway, that's a different story.
I just need to put it on record for the podcast, though, that there was actually a comment on our super secret Facebook group from Colin Tate saying that if you don't take credit for that sidestep, it'll be a crime.
Honestly, Craig's very, very humble. That's exactly someone that had coached that sidestep to make Molly Pullman would say, so they would look even better. I'm honestly
Oh, she's just that just in a game that we were all kind of like, I'll tell you what, it's that blooming lilac Scotland shirt that's the problem. I still think it is.
I love that top. You stop there. I love that top.
No,
I think with Edinburgh, the only thing is what we have got. Edinburgh have got a slightly different way to the end of the season. They've got Connaught and Dragons, but Dragons are a team that will trip you up, and so are Connaught. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on and how things go. And I've totally and utterly lost my notes. There we go, got them. Sorry, by the way, not my notes, Mark's notes. Just in case anyone wants to.
I sadly have lots of free time again this afternoon.
So yeah, everything's starting to seem typical Scottish rugby, I suppose. It's kind of up and down, isn't it? Really. So we'll see how the next couple of weeks go. Nice break over this weekend for everyone, and we'll see how the following week comes. I guess we move on to this bit. Am I pressing the button?
No. I've got a blast from the past for you guys that I'd like to play before you go for it.
Okay, let's go for it.
Bear with me.
Well, we're looked high and we're looked low. We seen Dougie Bop on in the speedos, but I just wanna know, did you see the legend that's Dougie Donnelly?
Sorry, I had to go because we had a blast from the past on our super secret Facebook from Pete Forster, who said, "Where's Dougie Donnelly?" In Sainsbury's in Craigleith, this was a few days ago, in Sainsbury's in Craigleith this morning, I saw the line break king, Grant Gilchrist, shopping with his wife and his new wee one in a baby seat in the trolley. I'm sure you're all gagging to hear what he was buying. I can report there were definitely nappies in the trolley and a joint of meat, possibly a leg of lamb.
Now that is the content that we're here for.
I enjoyed that one today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Before we move on to Hands in the Ruck, and Mark has to play the tune that he doesn't like.
Yeah, let's do it now.
Hands in the ruck, who has got their hands in the ruck? Hands in the ruck, hands in the ruck, who has got their hands in the ruck?
Genuinely, I said this before, it's like, I don't have an issue with the tune. What used to get me was when I was driving, listening to you guys years back and I was commuting, the volume change between discussion and the Hands in the Ruck jingle was absolutely mental. It might not be anymore. We're using different software and all sorts of things now. But I only said it once. It's the old thing. You eat carrots all your life. Do they call you the carrot eater? But one...
Cammy only called Johnny McGinty a Tory once, and it stuck. So that's just the way it is.
Something's just fit. Something's just fit.
Yeah, that's very true. Very, very true. So it's our Hands in the Ruck section, and what have we got for today, gentlemen?
So we start as we always do, or with I've only got one Hands in the Ruck from our Facebook, which is good to know. But it's a very valid one from Colin Tate. Glasgow possibly not being able to play the home final, should they get there, due to the SRU cock-ups. As a Lothian-based Glasgow fan, I wouldn't have minded Murrayfield for home final, but possibly having to play in Belfast or in Northern England boils my stuff. I'm conscious that we have done Hands in the Ruck in public this time, but you all know what I mean. Yeah, I gotta agree with him.
Do we though? Do we? Because I'm going to say this again, and I don't usually agree with Tom English on many things. But again, I was listening to the other pod that thinks it's the Scottish Rugby Pod.
The Bootleg Scottish Rugby Pod.
The Bootleg Scottish Rugby Podcast. The BBC one.
Oh, we're using that. Sorry, I'm writing that down.
And I am not going to... We have to be aware that funding Edinburgh and Glasgow are not threadbare teams. They take a huge amount of money to run. Murrayfield takes a huge amount of money to run. all of the grassroots money that goes in, because there is a lot of money goes into grassroots, no matter what anybody says. There's a lot of money spent by the Scottish Rugby Union. And if you think that the Scottish Rugby Union are going to turn down, so say, for example, they get 50%, say, I'm not saying this is 100%, but 50% off a ticket that sells for £200 and there's 70,000 of them. That's a lot of money. And that goes into our rugby game. And they're going to turn these people down and say, no, we're not going to have you play Murrayfield and take all that money because we might get into a semi-final or a final with Glasgow. For me, I think it's, well, I understand your thoughts, and in a perfect world that wouldn't happen, but we're not in a perfect world. And I think we're in a situation where we have several football stadiums available. Glasgow have played in Hampden and danced about and bragged about how great Hampden was. Well, why aren't we using Hampden?
I think the issue, because I agree with what you're saying. I mean, it's not infeasible to think that Murrayfield or SRU rather, with one concert, I can't even remember the guy's name. He's a country and western star, but he's a massive star apparently.
Yeah, it's thingy Bryce or Bryce or Bright. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. It's not infeasible to consider they could be taking in 25% of Glasgow's annual player budget in a single day.
Yeah.
You know, it's that's not out of the question, right?
Yeah.
That's significant. I think the problem that we have, and where it's all gone a little bit pear-shaped, is that I think it's all on at the same time as the Commonwealth Games. So suddenly the football stadia that you talk about are not available. So Hampden's not available. Tynecastle I'm not sure about. Scotstoun too small, which is why we're having to look at even out with Scotland.
Hey, why don't you get your asses up to Pittodrie?
Well, if Pittodrie's I would agree with that. Yeah.
There's a couple of stadia at Dundee United.
I believe we have a relationship with Newcastle. Let's get down there. Yeah. I'm only 15 minutes further away from Newcastle than I am from Edinburgh.
I was about to say, well seen you've moved to the borders, Mark. Well seen you've moved to the borders. Yeah. I don't think we can blame the SRU for the Commonwealth Games being on. My own personal thing is the Commonwealth Games are a relic and should be scrapped. They shouldn't be on. That's the thing to be angry about. They shouldn't exist anymore.
No, I agree with all of that. We can't blame the SRU for that. I think that's just, it's ended up as the perfect storm.
Yeah.
You got... Sorry?
Yeah. Sorry, Newcastle. That would be all right.
Newcastle is a fun night. I was a little bit like, how can I put it? I was very disappointed with, and maybe it's because we've always kind of, they've never really been looked upon as by Scottish rugby fans in the way that they're looked upon now. But I was disappointed in Scottish rugby fans and the outcry of that England score. They're at Murrayfield and they're an embarrassment and they're this and they're that and the other. And it's like, well, hang on a minute, you know, they're not Scottish, they're not Scotland men. They have other jobs. They have, you know, they're going up against a team who have been professional for at least 8 years, 9 years, maybe even 10 years. And all they do is they get up in the morning, they get told what they're eating, they get going for they get told what weights to do, they get to, you know, they are built to be rugby players. And we've got a Scotland team who are, you know, well, you know, we've backed that Scotland team incredibly well. We've given them a year's contract.
They get told, our players get told all the same stuff, but in the meantime, they've still got to do 9 to 5.
Exactly.
So here's what you've got to eat, but you've got to fit that around your day job.
Well,
do, but you need to fit that around your day job.
Yeah. Well, they have their professional contracts, but the money that they're earning in their professional contracts now doesn't really scratch the surface of what a pro athlete should be paid. So I think I just was, maybe it's just the fact that I wasn't expecting it. I thought everybody knew what I knew, which was that the Red Roses were coming up to beat Scotland, and they were going to beat Scotland. I was disappointed, yes, of the level of beating that Scotland took. But what, again, brand new coach, new coaching staff, new players, etc. That I don't think a lot of the players were ready for the onslaught of a fully professional Rugby World Cup winning team coming to our home to show us, with all the history that England has at Murrayfield. They came to show us who was boss, and they did. And I think please don't. You need to stop clutching your pearls and live in the real world of sometimes.
I'm incredibly conscious. I remember it might have been on a podcast, it might have been reading it, and it was Brian Moore who said it in the face of an England men's defeat some years ago. I can't remember what the match was. Might have been that one where they lost their own pool to Wales. That we have the picture in our we have the famous aftermath picture in our intro video, and the England players took huge pelters, and I can remember Brian Moore saying, stop it, no matter how angry you are, no matter how bad you're feeling today, you are not feeling as bad as the players.
Yeah. Well, Brian Douglas has just said the same thing.
Yeah. We leave the players. So I don't even have the comments on. Yeah, leave the players alone. Yeah,
yeah,
they'll be hurting way worse. There is not a single Scotland player who went out there that did not try to give their all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mark, could you say that more sort of emphatically, more tearily, and we could have your sort of our very own viral "Leave Brittany Alone" moment? I think if we're going to hit the TikTok generation and get the younger listener, then we need to stop references like the one I've just made from early internet.
Alan, what's your hands in the ruck this week?
Well, so I think with you choosing Scotland fans, I also am going with a classic from the pod, going with our core, and I'm going to choose the English media, particularly the Daily Mail, for their Scotland are poaching the worst of the best of the Southern Hemisphere talent. Yeah. Talking about Bailey Quenzel, and now if they'd said Riley Higgins, they might have had a point. It's Scottish qualified player that we're bringing up. Bailey Quenzel is not Scottish qualified. His surname's Quenzel. Admittedly, we've got a Tuipulotu and a Stain who are SQ because of matronymic lines rather than perhaps the paternal lines. But he's 27. He's hardly going to be a project player. He would be 32 when he becomes, and no one's talking. And because this is all about, they don't sound very Scottish, and no one's talking about Josh Mackay when he becomes Scottish qualified, because he's called Josh Mackay, and everyone will assume they'll be like, "Where's this guy been?"
Yes, they also mentioned, but only brushed over, the two big South African brothers that we're looking at. But that's less of an issue because they're Josh and James Mackenzie. So they must be fine, right?
Yeah, they're fine. They don't, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, tell me they are both SQ, because I will be very disappointed if they're not.
They've apparently been training with Glasgow, but they're schoolboys. They're youngsters. I suspect it's get in and see what you like in the environment.
Yeah. Well, that's our hands in the ruck. We move on. Sorry, my apologies, Mark.
It's getting this way. You see, I do the thing for all our wonderful patrons. I don't get my own misery to spill.
Come on, get on with it. Stop moaning. Get on.
No, it's the only thing was we've spoken about a few other things, the lack of depth of Glasgow and things like that. But the only thing I will say about a match is the TMO, specifically Zabry's fourth try. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was an outrageous call. The ref's on field. I mean, we won in the end anyway, so it's not really relevant. But the ref's on field call was no try. And my understanding of the laws is you have to make a clear. It has to be clear and obvious. There is nothing the TMO saw or showed on screen that was clear and obvious. And it's like, well, honestly, it was one of those. It looks like it was realistic to assume he did score. But if we're going to go down that route, let's make the rule realistic to assume, not clear and obvious.
Yeah.
The TMO's intervention needs to be governed now because it's getting mad.
So I'm like you, Mark. I would actually say realistic to have scored, and thinking of that Scotland-France game. And that was very much that situation. And if you say the rule law should be changed, I would support that. But you can't just go, I think we should change the laws, so I'm just going to change it in this game. You've got to apply the laws as they are and then look to change them. The law might be an ass, but you have to. I said ass, which is a type of donkey, so we're clear. I think that's, it's also allowable in BBC standards.
Okay.
Yeah. I would absolutely argue that there was nothing. What we saw in the Scotland-France game that we were talking about that was disallowed was far more conclusive than anything the TMO could have seen on this Zabry call. But the difference was huge. If that had been, I mean, thank goodness Scotland scored, because if that had been the decider, not Scotland, Edinburgh, if that had been the decider, Edinburgh could rightly have been doing their nut about it.
Yeah.
It's difficult, and I appreciate reffing is difficult, TMOing is difficult. TMOing, I suspect, is far easier than reffing, right? But it needs to be governed. And if the TMO's seen an angle that we're not seeing, that conclusively proves, for example, that ball was down, then we need to be shown that too.
Yeah.
And it would make all of this go away, right? If there was an angle the TMO saw that I didn't see, why aren't they playing that to me as a fan?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Can I just say, though, that our Hands in the Ruck have been Scottish rugby fans, the English media, and TMOs. So I think we've got the house. Bingo.
We're nothing is not consistent, right?
Absolutely. Shall we move on to 50-22?
Let's do that.
I haven't got a jingle for that, though.
We haven't got a jingle. Here's one for our wonderful Patreons and anybody else that's interested. Somebody make us a jingle and send it in, and if it's great, we will use it. And
we'll not use it. It has to be incredibly poor. No.
And I will personally send you a bottle of wine, colour of your choice. We have we have a fair few, a couple of 50-22s. Colin Tate again. In the background of Molly Pullman's try, and I might be preempting 50-22s with that, but in the background of Molly Pullman's try, on one of the replays, the assistant referee on the lines was beaming from ear to ear, clearly, absolutely watching the try live while running the line and clearly loving it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's absolutely fantastic that the ARs are able to run the line and enjoy that in real time. Appreciate what was going on. And secondly, from Colin as well, and he says, a bit of a personal one, so no social clips for this one. I took my 5-year-old son to the women's game versus England, and despite the result, he had a brilliant time and enjoyed soaking up the atmosphere. and came away a massive fan of the team, in particular Rachel Malcolm. And in brackets, he's got, or as she is known in our household, Captain Dr. Rachel Malcolm. Colin, I will say we know her as CDRM on our chat. He is already badgering me to get tickets for the France game. At 5 years old, that's awesome news. And surely that's what it's all about.
Well, listen, I have to say that's one of the. I've got another 50-22, but I have to say the girls singing coming out of the tunnel. I don't know if anyone's seen that clip. And they're singing a song. I think Scotland is always home or something.
It's called. I think it's Scotland's a place called home.
That's it. Scotland is a place called home.
Nathan Evans and St. Phoenix.
Yeah, and that is a wonderful.
Coming onto the pitch.
Coming out into the tunnel before they go onto the pitch.
Oh,
so
wow.
They come out of changing rooms into the tunnel and they're singing the song, and everyone is singing the song. It is a fabulous thing. Now, I'm about to run out of battery here. I'm going to have to try and find. Oh God! I found my charger. So anyway, carry on.
I love that you've unplugged one of the lights to get to the charger, Chris.
Hey, listen, technologica. Anyway, there we are, sorted.
Alan, you go.
I've got two. One's quite like Colin's. Looking at the Scotland-England result, but a colleague of mine had taken her two young daughters to the game. And colleague's English, but she's claiming dual nationality. They all had Scotland flag. They all had saltires painted on their face. And
cultural appropriation. How dare they?
Well, the girls are Scottish, but actually, the colleague would qualify on residency grounds now.
Because they own all the holiday homes up north. It's ridiculous.
Listen, this is something working at NHS Island. They've got really far up Scotland. Listen, you Central Borders and Central Belt boys.
I apologise.
So yeah, miss me with that with your East Nuke nonsense. But no, our girls had a fantastic time, and we're absolutely entranced with the game. One of the girls was called Rona, and she was delighted that Rona Lloyd scored. And I was able to say, look, Highland are a great club if they're interested, and they both are very much interested. And hopefully we've got two girls going along to Highland Minis and hopefully graduating into the girls' teams as time goes on. So
that's fabulous.
That's what it's all about, and it might have been a disappointing result, but they got to go and shout along for Scotland, see the women play in Murrayfield and be inspired by it. And I think we shouldn't lose sight of that.
Can I tag a little thing onto your 50-22, Alan? Because I tagged onto Mark's, so I may as well tag onto yours. Just going over the whole getting involved with your local rugby club, and come and try and this, that, and the other. Manson Jr. played his last game for Stirling Uni the other day, and he has finished up and he's heading away onto a new chapter. And what the university at Stirling's rugby, and I'm sure the other rugby universities throughout Scotland give, I just wanted to give a shout out to all of Scotland's uni teams and the people who are involved in uni teams. They do a phenomenal job to give people who are obviously going to new universities, new places, maybe not with friends, and they're looking for somewhere to belong. These teams give a lot of players and people a place to belong. And my son has been absolutely, with trepidation, went to Stirling Uni and comes away with it. Someone who I do recognise a huge amount of, but he is a strong, confident, impressive young man, in my opinion, and I have to have that opinion on his dad. But Stirling University Rugby has had a huge influence on him while he's been there. And I think what we have to remember is that if anyone is looking who enjoys rugby, enjoys watching rugby, wants to be a bit fitter, no matter your size, your shape, your political statements, your etc., you can go and join one of these clubs, whether you're at a university or whether you're at a university. You can go to a rugby club and be welcomed. And I just wanted to do a 50-22 of that, of Scottish rugby clubs and especially Scottish university clubs. They are fantastic, and everyone that's involved with them, they are a fantastic group, and more power to them.
Well said. Yeah.
Grand.
I have a couple of 50-22s. I'm feeling awfully upbeat this week. But I think one of the ones that was genuinely on my list, because I knew you wouldn't mention it, Craig, was that Manson Jr., not just finishing up at Stirling University, was voted Stirling University second player of the season. I knew you wouldn't mention it, but it put a smile on my face having had a couple of beers with a lad a couple of months ago. So well done to him. That made me happy too.
Yeah, he's leaving, and he's just well, let's just say he's got a sore head this morning, but he's unfortunately working tonight. But as I say, this is the thing. To give you a wee idea, I'm not going to go into huge details about Logan, but he got back to rugby when he became 16, 17 after leaving rugby at the age of 12, 13. And he has always had the question mark, am I, and he'll never admit this, but I know that he is, that am I on the pitch because my dad's the coach? And because I've coached him all of his junior life, and he's now gone to a club, and that's what I'm trying to say, he's flourished there, and maybe it's because I'm not his coach, but he's been phenomenal, and it means that Stirling Uni have been good. They've had their moments, and we all know clubs that have their moments, but he's really come along, he's really developed into someone who is quite an impressive young man at times. So I really thank you for that. It's a very, very proud moment. He's a good lad.
I saw that in your Facebook, and as you know, we've all met Logan, and I just thought, chuffed to bits from
Yeah,
great way to end them. The other thing that for me is the some of the exciting rugby that we've seen from Scotland pro clubs, but exemplified by Edinburgh. It's not something I would say often. I mean, we haven't specifically mentioned Molly Pullman's try. I take it everybody knows that's absolutely top of our list. If you haven't seen it, go and watch Molly Pullman's try. I basically watched it on a loop for an hour with a huge vat of wine beside me. It was just magical. It's like Rhys Carey's try during the Six Nations, only better. Fabulous try from a prop, absolutely wonderful.
The double pump dummy was amazing. It's the wildest double pump dummy.
I actually said it on my socials. It's like everybody looked at Rhys Carey's try and went, "Oh, that's fantastic," except Molly Pullman, who went, "Nah, I'll run it from 10 yards farther out.
Hold my beer,
the dummy, hold my beer." Yeah, exactly. Absolutely fabulous. But some of the things we've seen, Grant Gilchrist with a line break and a sidestep and an offload to Glenn Young for a try. Ashman's, have you seen Ewan Ashman charge the ball down and did a very quick offload to Hector?
Yeah.
It was fabulous. Juggled the ball and had the sense not to go to ground, but to ping it to Patterson on only his second cap going under the posts. And Darcy Graham's try with back-to-back chips. He's chipped forward, gathered, and immediately, as soon as he's gathered, realised he was going to get caught and just dropped the ball in his boot again to punt into Piers O'Connor. Then supported Piers O'Connor for the return pop pass when the corner got tackled. It was a phenomenal try. All of those things. I mean, seeing those things, albeit we're at the end of the season, Edinburgh are not doing well. In spite of Molly's fantastic try, the Scotland women lost. Nonetheless, I would watch any one of those occasions again and again. And that's what it should be all about. It was fabulous.
Absolutely.
The final thing I'm sorry, I forgot about that. Yeah. Did you guys see that the Sharks joined Edinburgh to do a communities event with the kids at Edinburgh Accies Ground?
No, didn't see that. That's impressive.
Yeah, it was before the match. Sharks players went along with Edinburgh players, and met youngsters I'm guessing at the age group, I would think late primary, maybe early secondary school, maybe 10 to 12 kind of age group. And both sets of players went along. They did sign-ins, they did a wee bit of coaching drills and all that sort of thing. And the fact that it's the South African guys, a lot of famous players with the Sharks, right? As well.
Yeah, Sia Khaleesi was there.
Yeah, Sia Khaleesi. I mean, I thought that was a lovely, lovely touch by the Sharks to go along and do that hand in hand with Edinburgh. And finally, and I only caught this just before we came online, French Rugby, according to Planet Rugby, have come out and said French Rugby continues to unanimously oppose World Rugby's trial of a 20-minute red card. To me, bang on.
C'est magnifique.
The only thing about that is they're saying it's about player welfare, and that has to be the top of our considerations. I've seen the top 14. I don't think player welfare is the top of their considerations.
Yes, let alone in Pro D2, never mind the top 14.
Yeah, the eye gouge league.
Yeah. Player welfare, as long as you don't mind losing an eye and you play 140 games a year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yes, you are right. I'm being slightly
Taking a stance, however, is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we finish up, I've got a wee something to say. Just to say that Craig, who has done such a sterling job of hosting and has been absolutely fantastic as a moderate voice on the pod and poking gentle fun at those of us with more extreme views. Craig's going to take a wee step back for a bit just to do some life stuff. So I just wanted to say, Craig, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and you're welcome back anytime. And thank you for being so welcoming when I started. So
yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that, lads. Sorry,
I'm really comparatively new as well, and you've been so incredibly supportive of me. I massively appreciate it, big guy.
No, I appreciate that. No, it's I think it's you guys are the future of the pod, and along with Leslie and everyone else. I was I'm very I'm very grateful to both Johnny McGinty and Cammy Black for giving me the chance to come on, and everyone that's been involved with the pod, John Anderson, Ian Hay, Rory, and all of you guys. It's been fabulous. It's just life needs to be lived, and I need to do a bit of life at the moment, and it's time for me to do that. So, but the pod is in great hands. Big thank you to all the patrons who have supported us over the time. They've been absolutely fantastic, and hopefully more power to you, and I hope you continue to support. And everyone who listens, and all the people that grab you in the car park of a rugby club or grab you at an Edinburgh game and say, "Hey, how are you doing? I liked the pod the other day," and want to give you their opinion on something that you've said or something. And to the Warrior Nation, I know you love me, really. And if you want to continue bringing old Australians up to play for your team, you knock yourselves out. I love that journey for you. But thank you to all of you. Thank you to you guys. I really appreciate it, and everyone that's been involved in the pod. The pod's been a fantastic part of my life for a good number of years. And I will hopefully come back and say hello and offer my maybe less considered opinions in the future, but I think at this moment in time it's time to live a little bit of life, so but yeah, thanks again, and on that moment I suppose we make a move and we say that's us, gentlemen.
Night all. Oh,
Typical. I never, not the only time that I've not mentioned that we record at night. Thank you very much, Alan McDonald.
it had to be my fault at least once, Craig.
At least once.
At least once. You blamed me all this time.
Thanks to both Mark and Alan. I really appreciate you joining us tonight, and being and good luck with the future of the pod, and good luck to all of you, and have a great evening, and enjoy your late weekend of European rugby. And fallow week. Sorry, there you go, Alan. I got your message. All right, love to all of you.
Right.
Cheers.
Thanks, folks. Good night, and thank you very much, Craig.
Cheers, Craig.